Okay, so right off the bat, we find something interesting on the title screen. Now, me personally, I had no idea that the textures on these characters were actually fairly well done, but that's not what we're here for. What we're here for is that Slippy actually has a traditional Toad's eye in Star Fox 64. I don't know how I never noticed this. I mean, it doesn't help the fact that they rounded out his eyes in future games. I mean, that's what I always thought it was. So listen, for days I could give you close-ups of enemies, but hey, we'd be here forever if I did that, right? But you know what? There's gonna be a select few. There's some in particular that when I played Star Fox 64, I was like, man, I wish I could get a good look at that enemy. Like these water ski enemies that didn't do anything to anybody, they're just chilling on the water. But you know what? We gotta ruin their day for 150 points, bro. So while playing through Star Fox 64 in glorious HD, I noticed that there's a lot of enemies that have the letter A plastered on their robots, their whatever. Now I always thought that this is just the mech characters in the secret third level, but no, there's a couple instances, and for example, this boss has it right there on the chest. Clearly someone spray painted it on. Now one instance in which it's a lot harder to notice is on the Mech Beth. And God do I hate saying that, because clearly it's a mech that's on the planet Macbeth, but it's too similar sounding to Mechbeth, so I just sound like a doofus. But anyways, before we move on to the next letter A, and by the way, it's a little closer than you think, I wanted to show you guys the back end of this boss, because you never get to see it, but it has its own special texture. It's cool, it's got this little like yellow circuit board type thing going on, right? I thought it was really interesting. So maybe you have a keen eye, you've noticed those A's all along, and that's fine. But this last A, you couldn't have seen because it's not visible at any time. And that's right on the front of the train. And this train is going to segue right into the next portion of our episode, which is the base on Macbeth. Now getting to view this base was incredibly difficult, not just because you can't pause the game. Yeah, that's a little annoying, but the really annoying part is that controlling the camera for Star Fox is really, really funky. So not only am I fighting against the fact that I have a limited time limit to show off the base, but I'm also having to fight a weird wonky camera. But that will not deter me. No sir, we will find everything about this base. For example, the main entrance in which the train runs into has its own unique texture on the door. At least I think it's a door. I'm gonna freeze frame it, and you guys can help me decide. But I'll tell you this much, I've never seen that on any boss, wall, or anything before. And now here's some various angles of the base itself. One thing that I forgot to mention, which I thought was pretty cool, is that it looks like next to the archway that leads into this base, it's just two nukes on each side of it. At least I think they're nukes. They look like nukes to me. It's a really nice touch. A little dangerous. I mean, you're kind of setting yourself up to be a target for at least 50 plus points. It's... I hope this Star Fox humor is probably getting lost on so many people. Oh, here's another random enemy that I wanted to check out. Or is it a friend? Or was it once a friend? It looks like the Chicken Walker from Star Fox 2 and Star Fox Zero. There is no doubt about it. I'm sorry. I mean, you go ahead, argue with me. I don't care. I'm 100% convinced that this was once the Chicken Walker meant for Star Fox 64 and reskinned to look like an enemy. It's got the legs. It's got the body. I mean, granted, it doesn't have the body from Star Fox Zero, but if you compare it to how it looks in Star Fox 2, it's very, very similar. I have no doubt in my mind that this is a repurposed model for the Chicken Walker in Star Fox 64. Oh, that is so freaking cool. You know, it always bothered me that I could never shoot these guys or ever catch up to them. So I decided, you know what, with the camera trick, let's just see what's going on with these guys. And you know something? I really should have known this whole time that the only reason why you can't shoot these guys is because they're not real. They're just 2D textures. Sneaky, sneaky. Oh yeah, I've always wanted a better look at the Golem. So the Golem does spin his head around, and technically you should be able to see all of his faces. But let's be honest, when the game is in standard definition, and the head's moving, and your crosshairs are in the way, and your laser's in the way, you don't really get to see his face all that well. Well, today that changes. If you look at the front of Golem, you can actually see that he has a big goofy smile on his face. But that's not all. On the side of his face, he also has a very angry looking face, and also a rather deadpan face. Stoic, if you will. So one thing that I noticed is that Fox McCloud's face is always in the cockpit, but typically not the other pilots, unless it's convenient for a cutscene. So I had to check to see, is James McCloud piloting his own ship? They already got his face in there for when you get to go through the game on expert mode. So let's find out. Well, now this is kind of interesting. Instead of Fox in his own cockpit, his face is instead in his father's ship. Or is it his father's ship? Call it a weird technical goof, but this is the only time in the game this ever happens, and I want to believe that it might mean something. Like as if to say that, while yes, you the player are guiding Fox through the tunnels, maybe from a psychological state, Fox is actually the one in the front, and the spiritual connection that he's having with his father is causing him to see something that's not really there, and with the spiritual connection having some mental foresight. Or it could just be a technical goof. Now this isn't very boundary breaky, but I noticed that this is like documented nowhere on the internet. I want to put it out there so that it is documented on the internet. There's a shooting star in this cutscene that you'll see. Theories aside, that absolutely represents James McCloud, because at no other point in the game is there ever a shooting star. And the shooting star only happens if James McCloud leads you out of Venom. I captured this footage because I'm sure people would want to ask how much of Corneria is actually rendered in. And surprisingly, not much. But far more interesting is General Pepper's base. You would think that not much would be rendered in for this either because so little of it's actually shown in the real game, but you're wrong. And oh my goodness, what a treat this is. Because in fact, General Pepper's base is fully rendered. But of course, you can't pause, and it disappears really quickly. But after 12 attempts, we finally got it.
Star Fox, we are in your debt. I would be
Oh my goodness. Apparently General Pepper is just a collectible bust in that he has no legs and no arms. He's like a talking piece of art. or perhaps an incomplete Chuck E. Cheese automatron.
It's time for us to go now.
Hey Pat, can you get this in here real quick?
Oh, you mean that?
Oh, barrel roll! Hey, thank you everyone for the overwhelmingly positive response for the last episode. It's nuts. 20,000 views is crazy. I don't expect that to happen again, but I really appreciate the enthusiasm, and I'm glad that you enjoyed the episode. So, some of you might be wondering what happened to Smash 4, Pokepark Wii, Pokemon Snap. There's a lot to talk about there. I'll make sure to go over that in the next Real Talk, which is going to come up real soon. And for the next episode, so I don't make the same mistake that I'm alluding to, I'm going to make the next episode Luigis Mansion. I'm not going to make it a vote this week, I'm sorry. But I think a lot of you are very excited about Luigis Mansion anyway, so, you know, it's going to make a lot of people happy anyway, so I'm excited for that. But you know what, I'll give you a poll anyway. I don't know what it's going to be about, but I'll put a poll down below for something. You guys can vote on it. But anyways, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I loved doing it because it was Star Fox 64, one of my favorite games of all time. So, hey, take care, guys. Appreciate it.